First flown in 1924, the AN-T2 was the Soviet Union's first all-metal aircraft. Built with corrugated duralumin, this high-wing monoplane carried 2 passengers at 165 km per hour, proving Andrei Tupolev's vision for durable, all-metal flight. The 1925 AN-T3 was a pioneering all-metal biplane scout and recon aircraft. It achieved global fame during mass flights across Europe and Asia. Armed with twin machine guns, its rugged duralumin frame achieved a solid top speed of 205 km per hour. Also known as the I-4, this 1927 sesquipole fighter was the USSR's first all-metal fighter. Powered by a Bristol Jupiter engine, it reached 257 km per hour. Its tough, corrugated structure laid the foundation for future Soviet fighter designs. Known operationally as the R-6, this 1929 twin-engine reconnaissance aircraft and escort fighter scaled up the AN-T2's metal design. It features a 1,300 km range, 230 km per hour top speed, and served as a vital long-range Arctic explorer. The 1929 AN-T9 was one of the earliest Soviet multi-engine passenger airliners. Initially using 3 engines, it carried 9 passengers at 205 km per hour. It famously completed an 8,000-kilometer European promotional tour named Wings of Soviets. A 1934 8-engine behemoth, the AN-T20 was the largest aircraft of its era. Serving as a massive propaganda tool, it carried a printing press, radio station, and cinema, powered by 7,000 total horsepower at a speed of 220 km per hour. Better known as the I-14, this 1933 prototype was a highly advanced monoplane fighter. It featured retractable landing gear, an enclosed cockpit, and smooth skin, reaching 449 km per hour, though it lost production priority to the Polikarpov 116. The 1936 AN-T35 was a sleek twin-engine high-speed passenger airliner. Designed to compete with the Douglas DC-2, it carried 10 passengers in a pressurized cabin at 438 km per hour, serving Aeroflot until World War II forced it into military transport. Known as the DB-1, this 1936 long-range bomber was a military derivative of the record-breaking AN-T25. It featured a massive wingspan for high-altitude endurance, a 240 km per hour top speed, and a 4,000 km range, though production was brief. Famed as the SB bomber, this 1934 twin-engine monoplane was one of World War II's most important tactical bombers. It flew faster than contemporary fighters at 450 km per hour, seeing heavy action in the Spanish Civil War and the Winter War. Famous as the TB-7 and later PE-8, this 1936 heavy bomber was the USSR's only modern 4-engine strategic bomber of World War II. It carried massive 5,000-kilogram bombs, featured an unpressurized cabin, and famously bombed Berlin in August 1941. The massive 1961 Tu-28, or Tu-128 Fiddler, remains the largest fighter aircraft ever put into service. Designed as a dedicated interceptor to hunt NATO bombers over Siberia, it used 2 powerful turbojets to hit Mach 1.57 speeds. Flown in 1955, the Tu-104 was the world's second jet airliner, and the only one operating globally from 1956 to 1958. Derived from the Tu-16 bomber, it carried up to 100 passengers at 950 km per hour, revolutionizing Soviet commercial aviation. The 1957 Tu-114 Rossiya was a colossal turboprop airliner derived from the Tu-95 bomber. Utilizing 4 massive Kuznetsov NK-12 engines with contra-rotating propellers, it remains the fastest propeller-driven passenger jet at 870 km per hour. Built in 1957, the Tu-116 was a stopgap VIP transport designed specifically for Nikita Khrushchev. It was modified directly from the Tu-95 bomber airframe, featuring a specialized pressurized passenger cabin built inside the bomb bay. The 1960 Tu-123 Yastreb was a massive supersonic unmanned reconnaissance drone. Launched from a truck trailer via rocket boosters, it flew at Mach 2.5 to photograph strategic targets before ejecting its nose cone camera payload. First flying in 1960, the Tu-124 was the world's first short-range airliner powered by turbofan engines. A scaled-down derivative of the Tu-104, it was built to operate from unpaved runways, carrying 56 passengers at 490 knots. Entering service in 1965, the Tu-126 MOS was the Soviet Union's first dedicated AWACS aircraft. Utilizing a heavily modified Tu-114 airframe, its massive Liana radar disc tracked targets over the ice to coordinate air defenses. The 1974 Tu-141 Strij was a reusable, medium-range Soviet reconnaissance drone. Powered by a KR-17A turbojet, it flew a 1,000-kilometer range at a brisk 1,110 kilometers per hour, recovering via parachute. It saw unexpected combat use decades later. First flown in 1968, the Tu-142 BRF is a dedicated maritime reconnaissance and anti-submarine warfare aircraft. Evolving from the Tu-95, it features specialized surface search radar, magnetic detectors, and sonobuoy launchers. Introduced in 1976, the Tu-143 Race was a highly successful, low-altitude tactical reconnaissance drone. Launched from a mobile truck wrapper, it mapped front lines at 950 km per hour before parachuting back for rapid film processing. The 1968 Tu-144, famously dubbed Charger, was the world's first supersonic passenger transport. Beating Concorde to the air, its delta wings and droop nose pushed it to Mach 2.15, though high costs and crashes limited its service. Flown in 1988, the Tu-155 was a groundbreaking experimental testbed based on the Tu-154. It was the world's first aircraft to fly using liquid hydrogen and later liquefied natural gas, pioneering alternative cryogenic fuel tech. First flying in 1989, the Tu-204 is a modern, twin-engine medium-range airliner developed to replace the aging Tu-154. Featuring fly-by-wire controls, supercritical wings, and glass cockpits, it carries 210 passengers efficiently. The Tu-214 is a heavyweight, specialized variant of the Tu-204, produced at the Karpo factory in Kazan. Boasting a higher gross weight and extra fuel tanks, it serves primarily as a reliable commercial airliner and government VIP jet. Introduced in the late 1990s, the Tu-243 Raise D is an upgraded version of the Tu-143 reconnaissance drone. It features modern infrared, TV, and radar sensors, doubling the original's mission range and target detection accuracy. The Tupolev ANT-4, also designated TB-1, was a historic 1925 heavy bomber. As the world's first all-metal, twin-engine cantilever bomber, it carried a 1,000-kilogram payload at 207 kilometers per hour, setting the gold standard for Soviet bomber design. The ANT-6, known operationally as the TB-3, was a massive four-engine heavy bomber from 1930. A dominant weapon of its era, this corrugated giant carried massive loads and served as the mothership for Zveno-parasite fighter tests. First flying in 1940, the Tu-2 Bat was one of World War II's finest twin-engine tactical high-speed bombers. It countered German armor effectively, reaching 528 kilometers per hour while carrying up to 3,000 kilograms of bombs with rugged agility. The 1947 Tu-4 Bull was a reverse-engineered clone of the American Boeing B-29 Superfortress. It gave the Soviet Union its first true strategic nuclear delivery platform, utilizing 4 Shvetsov radial engines and 10 cannons. The 1949 Tu-14 Bosun was a twin-engine turbojet light bomber designed for Soviet naval aviation. Competing directly with the Ilyushin IL-28, it operated as a high-speed torpedo bomber and mine layer, reaching speeds of 848 kilometers per hour. The 1952 Tu-160 Badger was a legendary twin-engine swept-wing jet bomber. Designed to counter NATO maritime fleets, it carried heavy anti-ship missiles and served for decades, even becoming the blueprint for China's H-6 bomber. Flown in 1959, the Tu-22 Blinder was the Soviet Union's first supersonic bomber. Featuring twin turbojets mounted oddly on the tail, it hit Mach 1.42, designed for high-altitude missile strikes against aircraft carrier groups. The 1969 Tu-22M Backfire is a highly lethal, long-range supersonic swing-wing bomber. Designed for maritime strike and strategic bombing, its variable geometry wings allow high speeds of Mach 2.05 to penetrate deep into defenses. The iconic 1952 Tu-95 Bear is a legendary four-engine strategic bomber. Featuring swept wings and loud contra-rotating turboprops, it has a massive 15,000-kilometer range and remains a primary long-range patrol asset for Russia today. First flown in 1963, the Tu-134 Krusty was a highly successful, short-range twin-jet airliner. Featuring rear-mounted engines and a distinctive glazed glass nose for navigation, it served as the workhorse for Eastern Bloc travel. The 1968 Tu-154 Careless was the absolute backbone of Soviet commercial aviation. This iconic trijet was engineered to operate from unpaved Arctic runways, carrying 180 passengers at a blazing fast cruising speed of 950 kilometers per hour. The 1981 Tu-160 Blackjack is a variable sweep-wing supersonic strategic bomber. As the largest and heaviest combat aircraft ever built, this White Swan flies at Mach 2.05, carrying internal cruise missiles for global reach.